Hello and welcome to Movie Film Studios, the only podcast that takes you inside the mind of two film studio executives as we unravel and then re-ravel the best that Hollywood has to offer. I'm Isaac.
And I'm AJ, and this week our favourite sewer-dwelling clown returns to take down our evil robotic mother who's trying to stop 4 kids from saving the world from an alien invasion. But before we get into something new, it's time for something old as we check in on our last feature in Box Office Report. Last episode, we released what was meant to be a creature film, but ended up being a family-friendly romp with a furry CGI companion in Shrunk the Prairie Dog, starring James Marsden as a person chasing tornadoes, and we cast John Mulaney as our titular prairie dog. How did that go?
You made me remember that with Sonic the Hedgehog, shortly after the trailer came out, there was a big outcry that they'd got the character design wrong.
Yeah, I heard something like that.
And the directors were going to go, hey, we'll actually fix this up before the release.
Yep.
And a very similar thing happened with ours.
Really?
We put out the trailer and people went, we don't like Shrunk the Prairie Dog at all.
Why?
So we decided we can just get rid of him. So we released the film.
Completely.
Just he's gone. We didn't even need to CG him out of the film because he wasn't in there to start with.
Turn the render layer off.
Exactly.
He was gone.
And it's just he's not in the film anymore.
So hang on. I'm sure that we wrote dialogue where James Marsden's character interacts directly with this character.
Absolutely.
There's a line where like the two of them enter a diner. Kathy Bates then turns to the shocked people that are there and then says, "What? You ain't never seen a prairie dog before?" Do we leave that in there?
It's very difficult to cut around. We still had to pay John Mulaney a lot of money, even though the character's not in the film anymore.
Yep.
But now it's really just James Marsden chasing an artificial intelligent tornado, and there's no weird creature video game character in there at all.
So did we cut out all the dialogue where he's interacting with it?
Again, like
how short is this film now?
It's lots of James Marsden's just his close-ups, and you'll see like he just goes to turn to the side to speak to the character who's in the car, but then like it just cuts to it and he's just in the car alone, just driving.
Look, I clearly didn't see this film. I was too busy being an executive this week, so I believe there was a scene where Strunk in the original script gets thrown out the window of the ute as they're chasing a tornado, and his whole thing is that he can soar around in the tornado with GoPro on his head to get all this amazing footage that no other tornado hunter can get. How was that justified in the version that we actually released?
I don't know how these editor wizards do this, but there's ways apparently of cutting around it. We've re-edited, we've done ADR, we've done pickup.
Jeez.
But the one thing we couldn't do was retitle the film, though.
Okay.
So it's still called Shrunk the Prairie Dog, but it is just an action thriller, James Marsden chasing tornadoes.
Will there be a remastered version, a director's cut?
Well, the tie-in video games don't make any sense anymore either, because you used to play as Shrunk, and now we had to delete the sprite. So theoretically, you can complete the game if you know all the moves. But
it was just meant to be an endless runner. You just like ran and then you tap. Like I think we even made it so you just completely ran. You were invincible.
Yeah.
So you just ran through.
Exactly.
So now you're just seeing
the enemies go past. You can't see Shrunk anymore.
Right.
But it was highly successful. So
great.
I mean that's really all we're after.
That's good to know. All right, on to this week in trailers. And first trailer for you today is It, Chapter 2, directed by Andy Muschietti and starring James McAvoy, Jessica Chastain, and Bill Hader.
Yes, may I help you?
I used to live here.
Won't you come in? It's the least I can do. Is it like you remember?
Cleaner.
Well, you feel free to look around while I get the water boiling.
Your hair is winter fire. January embers. My heart burns there too.
There you go.
Thank you.
Now some music. I do apologize. It gets so very hot here this time of year.
It's fine.
Well, you feel like you could just about die. But you know what they say about Derry? No one who dies here ever really dies.
I didn't see It, Chapter 1. because
Or
I saw
even
the trailer and I decided it was not for me.
And I didn't see the original one with Tim Curry from back in the 80s.
Yep.
Haven't read the book.
Nope.
This says teaser trailer. It is definitely like a full...
It's basically like a big chunk. It's a big scene,
and
uncut,
and then
as is.
So the basic premise of this is that it's set... I don't know, 2 or 3 decades after the events of the original It film.
27 years to be specific.
So, yeah,
it is
apparently,
part of the mythology
again,
of this clown.
Not that it's expressed in the trailer at all, but apparently he can only come out every 27 years.
Yep.
It's is the grown-up versions of the kids that were terrorized by the clown back in what I assume is the 80s.
Yep.
So you've got Jessica Chastain, James McAvoy, Bill Hader. Well, spoiler alert, I assume they survived the original encounter.
Well, double spoiler alert. Again, I'm pulling in information about it that I know from just reading bits. One of the kids doesn't actually survive the first film.
But obviously it's not the character that Bill Hader is playing the grown-up version of.
No.
There is a very prolonged scene in this where Jessica Chastain's talking to this old lady, and then it gets really super creepy, and it turns out that she's the daughter of Pennywise, and her dad was the clown who from the 1920s or whatever.
Yeah.
And people who die in, what was the place called?
Whatever the town is called.
Derry.
Sure.
Never really die. It's actually very, very creepy.
Yeah.
And then it sort of cuts to like this chapter will end, and now the kids are all grown up and they may have survived the first one, but Pennywise is back and he's got creepy makeup again. Oh no!
Yeah, look. Obviously, this is the kind of film to see if you've seen the first one, and I believe that the whole point with the first one and this one is that it's meant to be much more faithful to the book than any of the other adaptations of it have been. And I believe there was a mini-series, there was the TV film, the original that you mentioned as well, and the studios wanted to split into 2 films because the books deal with the exact same time frame. Like, it deals with the original kids, and then they flash forward to 27 years later as they're all adults.
So is this the book from the 80s, then presumably the Pennywise that they're dealing with as kids is in the 60s, and then the 1980s is they're adults?
Well, maybe.
Or is Stephen King such a visionary that he was flashing into 2019 from the 80s?
I don't know. Who knows? I assume the people that have read the book probably know. This film rather looks creepy.
It does, yeah.
The scene that they show in this trailer is just like you know that there's a jump scare coming, but it never comes.
No.
And then like... It sounds comical when I say it, but basically the old lady disappears off into a hallway, and then you see her flash behind Jessica Chastain's character, except she's completely naked.
Yeah.
And then there's a transition to another scene, and then we come back to Jessica Chastain suddenly being furiously attacked by a naked old lady, and it sounds hilarious, but it's really not.
But the naked old lady shot is almost like a POV shot where you kind of only see these legs kind of like
flailing limbs basically,
it looks like it should be comical. I'm getting visions of like Kermit the Frog's flailing limbs as he runs around, but it is a creepy naked old lady, so it's actually terrifying.
So look, we can't describe how creepy this is using words, so let the vision of the trailer do that job for us.
Good stellar cast though.
A huge cast, you got the James McAvoys, the Jessica Chastains, the Bill Haders, the guy from the Old Spice commercials is also in there, and Bill Skarsgård comes back as it, looking just creepy Pennywise. As all hell. It/Pennywise, same thing.
What's
whatever.
with the trope these days of like not calling it like It 2, but it has to be Chapter 2 or the second coming?
I don't know. Again, might be one of those things that I haven't read the book, but it might actually is meant to relate to the book a bit more. So because this was a book, because they're trying to be very faithful to it, I'll let them off the hook with using Chapter 2. Every other film that attempts to do that doesn't have a book tie-in can go to hell.
So John Wick specifically?
Yeah, very unless that is based on a book, and if so, I would like to read it. It Chapter 2 will be out later this year. Trailer 2 for this week's episode is I Am Mother, directed by Grant Sputor and starring Hilary Swank, Clara Rugard, and Rose Byrne.
Why aren't there any more children, Mother?
There used to be.
Then why did you only make one?
Mothers need time to learn. This facility was designed to give humanity a second chance. One that began with you. Daughter. The path will not be easy. The world outside is lifeless. But I made you into the woman that you are so that we could do this together. Mother?
How are you unaffected by the contagion outside?
Who put that in your head?
Netflix. The home of really weird conceptual films that also have a really cool sci-fi twist to them.
Yeah.
So this film starts off in a facility of some sort of very sort of high-tech but empty facility. A robotic presence pulls out an embryo, and then we sort of see a sequence of shots of a child.
Yeah, so it's
starting from baby
test tube
and
embryo that's being baked in.
I don't know,
some sort of test tubey oven.
Yep. Easy bake oven. Yep. And this baby grows up to be a young woman who knows her robot carer as mother.
And so the robot looks very much like a Mass Effect single eye lens bipedal.
Definitely
thing.
not like a friendly looking robot, but has a voice provided by Rose Byrne, and is basically the only presence that this girl has known for her entire life. Suddenly, Hilary Swank's character breaks into this facility, and all hell breaks loose.
So the twist is obviously when Hilary Swank comes along and starts telling this girl, she's probably 14, 15-year-old girl, that the robots are actually responsible for the destruction of the entire human race.
Yep.
They're out there killing everyone, and everything that this mother robot has told the girl her entire life is a lie. And because there's a big spanner in the works, the mother robot sort of goes, actually, Hilary Swank's character is telling you lies, but we shouldn't believe her. She's disrupting everything. And then there's this sinister overtone as like the robot's lights flash on the side of the head as she detects a threat. And you're just like, well, who's right in this scenario? Is it the human who's saying the robots are bad? Is this robot different? Is it not any different?
It kind of flirts with the idea that there's a bit of a psychological twist, or not a twist rather, but a psychological core to the girl's character, who sort of has to question whether or not the entire life that she's known so far is true or not, or is correct or not, because she basically has never seen another human, but now a human is telling her that the mother that she's known for her entire life is not actually what she thinks. So there's a bit of a kind of horror twist, a bit of a psychological twist there as well. Whether or not it actually carries through in the full film remains to be seen. Look, the two of us predicted that Hilary Swank's character is probably related to the girl in some way.
Because she's a test tube baby, and we see that there's like sort of like racks upon racks of fetuses that are undeveloped that they could potentially go. And then as the girl grows up, she's got this long brown straight hair. I assumed that she was the young Hilary Swank, and she was going to grow into Hilary Swank.
They kind of look similar.
They're like, oh, we're playing different characters. I'm like, well, after Gemini Man last week with Will Smith, and then our Nexus 6 with young and old Dave Bautista, I assume that they're a younger and older version of each other. It's not. When they didn't say that in the trailer, I'm like, is it supposed to be a twist, or did we just assume that someone else was ripping off our films? Yeah. I feel as though it is going to be a twist at the end at some stage.
I reckon so. And it probably will be that twist that we've just said. So, sorry if we spoilt it, but we will just, I don't know. Don't listen to our podcast then.
Yeah. This looks reasonably well made. They've got some effects budget behind it. Again, it's Netflix. Sometimes you see with Netflix that it looks like small screen special effects. Sometimes it looks like they've done an effort to make things practical effects.
They shot this film in Australia, surprisingly, and the robot itself was designed by BYTE in New Zealand.
There you go.
So
BYTE's really good for making practical effects robots and stuff like that. They did
This robot
What's
actually
the
does
Scarlett Johansson one?
Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah,
they did
a
bunch of stuff
lot of
there.
the stuff they did in that was practical effects for robots so you weren't sort of trying to constantly blend CG in with it.
It does actually look like a practical, like they've built a practical robot. Either that or the CGI is just phenomenally good. But anyway, that'll be out on Netflix whenever they decide to put out a new film, probably in the next 2 days. Final film for this week's episode is Rim of the World, directed by McGee and starring Jack Gore, Maya Czech, Benjamin Flores Jr. and Alessio Scalzotto.
Everybody's gone!
Look, honey, this summer is gonna be great. You're gonna make friends. There's nothing to worry about.
Welcome to the Rim of the World Adventure Camp. Alex, I am your leader, Logan.
I love you.
Hey, Dad! Where are you going? I don't think we should wander this far. Maybe we should head back?
Follow me. What was that?
I've never seen anything like them.
It's Independence Day. It's June, Gabriel!
We just need to wait here until the adults realize they left us.
Did you see the size of that thing?
Stop talking. Oh, please don't.
Was that an alien?
It has a dog!
We've got another Netflix one here, I believe.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. And, this is the kind of film where a competing studio would look at what another studio is doing and then say, right, let's take the elements of those and turn them into something like that, but wholly original. And in this case, Netflix has done that to itself. Because it's basically take Stranger Things, put it in current day, and make it about aliens. They've also ripped off another studio, namely Movie Film Studios.
Yeah.
We made a film a while back in the Gone in 60 Seconds franchise. I think we called it Gone in 2060 Seconds.
Yep, that's about right.
Which was set in the future, but basically involved a group of kids who were trying to prevent the apocalypse by, returning to a facility to stop a computer virus.
Computer AI, they had to go to a server room to power it on to destroy the AI.
Yeah.
This is the same thing.
This is very similar.
It's 4 kids who are at a summer camp. While they're there is a alien spaceship invasion.
Yep.
They freak out and run into the city and find that the army's trying to repel the invasion.
Yep.
They meet an army man who gives them a key to activate the satellite network that protects Earth.
Yep.
And the army man dies, and they have to travel 70 miles to the nearest facility to insert the key and save the world.
Yeah.
And it becomes a road trip journey as these kids have to battle aliens. They have to learn how to drive a car.
Yep.
They drink champagne, or generally being sort of delinquents in this action adventure environment.
It's a thing that's going. The kind of plucky kids trope that started, I guess, with the Goonies and possibly even sooner than that is really just getting hammered to pieces right now. There's a lot of films doing the exact same thing.
It actually looks quite a lot like the Seth Rogen and his writing partner, who's Evan Goldberg.
Yeah.
They have a film coming out which is 3 friends from school riding around being delinquents.
That's right, yeah.
Only that's much more of a stoner comedy with kids, whereas this is very sort of actiony, adventure-y, somewhat taking itself seriously in terms of them being burdened with this responsibility of saving the world.
This film kind of looks fun, but it also looks really oddly manufactured as well. It doesn't feel natural. So you watch the kids in Stranger Things and you're like, oh yeah, they're real kids. Whereas you watch the kids in this one and you're just like, you've just assembled, if someone had to put a definition to what kids look like, you've done that. You've got the slightly portly but jokey kind of kid. You've got the too cool for school kid. You've got the weird girl character. You've got the
nerdy
Rubik's Cube kid with red hair.
It was they put it into a stereotype generator, and this is what they got out.
This is what they got out. It really does feel very cookie cutter. They've looked at films like Stand By Me, they've looked at, again, Stranger Things, they've looked at Goonies, they've put it all into a big machine, and then they've said, let's just take it from movie film studios instead. So yeah, I mean, I don't know.
It sort of toes the line. So it does say in this film from the director who brought you The Babysitter, which was another, I believe, Netflix film. I quite enjoyed it. I think it was...
They didn't say from the director that brought you Charlie's Angels and Charlie Angels Full
Look, you know, they did very well financially.
Yeah.
Also, what did else McGee? We Are Marshall?
Terminator Salvation.
And Terminator Salvation.
Yeah.
So, you know, he knows what to do with big money. He doesn't... I just don't understand why he calls himself McGee. That's just always eluded me.
Let's just not go there. Anyway, again, go see this on Netflix whenever they decide that they need to advertise to us again. And those are the 3 trailers for this week's episode. But of course, before we can do anything with those, we're going to have to take a little walk over to the green room.
Let's go.
And here we are. Let's have a quick recap of this week's trailers. We have
a horror film set several decades after with adult characters.
A sequel,
dealing with what their children selves have already dealt with.
Yep. We also have
a high-concept sci-fi post-human extinction apocalypse with artificial intelligence and humanity overtones.
Nice. And finally, we have
a ensemble kid action-adventure road trip film.
Great. I believe that you chose last week, even though we didn't really honour the selection.
It's turned into a creature film by editing Shrunk Out, so...
That's a good point. All right. Anyway, the honour goes to me this week. A really good selection, actually.
Yeah.
I think we could make something out of any of these films. I do like Rim of the World. I feel like if we are going to get ripped off by Netflix, we should then in turn rip off the rip-off.
I think so.
So let's do Rim of the World. But as usual, we'll probably try and chuck in elements from the other 2 films. I really don't know how we're going to jam in It Chapter 2, but anyway.
I mean, it's easy with I Am Mother. It's just one of the kids is a robot, right?
Sure, all right. Okay, that's immediately off the bat. One of the kids is a robot. Secret robot or just is a robot?
No, absolutely. Like it is the same Mass Effect single eye.
Yep. Like a cyborg thing.
But it's like 3/4 of the size of other robots, so you know that it's a child robot, if such a thing can possibly exist.
What was that film called? Chappie with Sigourney Weaver, which had a sort of youngish...
Dev Patel was in
Dev
Chappie?
Patel was in it as well, yeah. A young kind of kiddish kind of robot who becomes a bit of a... runs away from its facility and sort of wants to become a rapper and do all sorts
Really?
of... Yeah.
Absolutely critically panned as far as I remember.
I believe
it's
so.
by Neil Blomkamp, did District 9
and
Elysium
with Matt Damon, yeah. Anyway, so do we want to have... Is this like the kind of Jetsons style future where having a cyborg robot child who doesn't look like a human, looks very much like a robot, is just normal? It's kind of...
I don't think it's common, but it's also not something to comment.
Yeah, it's just a thing. It's just there. They have it. Like in the same way that the Jetsons have the maid, whatever
Rosie.
her name, Rosie, yeah. These kids also just have a robot sidekick who happens to be a kid.
Yeah, who they're friends with. It's like you've got random stereotypes.
Yep. He can be Data. He's the nerd.
Exactly.
And the design of him as well. You know how, again, shows like the Jetsons and stuff, they had robots, but they always had to make robotic versions of very human things. So our version will have a pocket square, but it's not really a pocket square. It's just like a strip of metal. And he'll also wear glasses.
Yeah,
but
that's actually not a bad idea. The robot with glasses. I like the fact that he's carrying a backpack as well.
Yep.
So for all intents and purposes, we could have written it as a human character, but it's played by a robot.
Played by a robot, yeah, exactly. And if the robot doesn't work out, we'll edit him out in post and put in a real person. So we've started in a very weird way where we started with one of our characters.
It does inform, obviously that has to be set in the somewhat future.
Not so distant future. I think we set it in a future that is not far away enough to be viable for the type of technology that we're talking about. So I like how films like Back to the Future sort of pitched 2015 as this amazing year where so many ridiculously crazy technological advancements had happened, and then we flash forward to actual 2015 and none of that stuff has happened.
You say flash forward, this is actually a big flash backwards now.
Yeah, sorry, but you know what I mean, right? So I think we'll set ours maybe like 15 years into the future.
I wouldn't even go that far.
No,
I'm gonna
really?
say 5 years?
5 years?
Yeah.
Oh, we've already got cyborg robotic kids.
No, in 2025, it's just like, there's some advancement in robotics.
There's that company, I think it's DAPRA, who makes they do a lot of YouTube videos where they show robots walking and doing really creepy looking things.
But what they do is they kick the robots.
And then they kick them,
and knock them down. And it's obviously to demonstrate that it's got this gyroscopic balance.
Yeah.
But it's really just guys just kicking these dog-like robots. I've also seen one, do you remember in... is it DuckTales?
Yep.
Where the superhero duck, Robo Duck or whatever he's called, has those wheels for feet. Also a little bit like Rosie from the Jetsons.
Oh, so we're gonna do that?
I have seen the robot who does it. And
really?
It'll go up to a table and then it'll crouch down like a spring and jump up.
Ooh,
and then like land on its wheels and wheel across the table.
Yeah, right.
It looks kind of like a robotic superhero.
All right, so let's have our data kid robot have a single wheel as its primary mode of transport, as its leg. Anyway, okay, so we assume that 5 years in the future means that DARPA has like absolutely nailed the idea of a humanoid-esque robot that can just sort of go out and do its own thing. And
there's a few of them around. Like if you went to school now and you've got a year group of like 90 kids, like 6 of them are robots.
Probably robots.
Yeah, so it's still predominantly humans.
Yep.
But for some reason, there's these childlike robots who are also attending school with you. Because they've developed AI.
Yep.
But it's not like the post-apocalyptic AI where as soon as it learns to think for itself, it can instantly learn everything.
Yeah.
This is an AI which is just as smart as a kid. So you still have to teach it all the same way that you would teach a kid.
Yeah, it's the concept of like the Futurama style or the Jetsons again style robots where they have artificial intelligence and they clearly have capabilities beyond that of humans, but they're just fine with doing their thing.
But we don't touch on this either.
No,
this isn't explained.
No way.
It's just that there is a kid there.
Data, we'll call him, as we said. All right,
we can't call him Data because that's Star Trek.
Oh, yeah, whatever. We'll call him some kind of...
You call him Datum. As in, like...
No, we'll call him Byte. BYTE.
BYTE, yeah, sure.
And that'll be him. And so what do we have? What's actually going to happen in this film? Is there going to be an event? Should there be some kind of cataclysmic event that occurs that then bands these disparate group of kids together? Or is it going to be something a bit more mundane? Yeah,
so I mean, you could go down the Seth Rogen, Evan Goldberg thing where it's just the daily lives of these kids.
Yep.
You could do the alien invasion, Day After Tomorrow.
Yep.
Military invasion.
Yep.
You could, I mean, I really want to steer clear of AI, even though we've got an AI, AI is not taking over, the robots aren't taking over.
What if we did something a little bit different, which was like post-alien invasion? So the aliens have invaded, they've been defeated, they leave, but the Earth is in a bit of ruins. There's a lot of alien tech lying around.
This is maybe where BYTE sort of comes into it a little bit.
Yeah.
They've left their tech behind, but it doesn't integrate well with ours, and for some reason it's kind of slow learning. Right, sure.
Yeah. Should it maybe BYTE accidentally stumbles upon some of this technology and it binds itself to him, which it can't do for anything else. And as a result, BYTE sort of becomes different, or is... You know what we do? We do the equivalent of Spider-Man for BYTE. So, obviously with Spider-Man, Peter Parker gets bitten by a radioactive spider, starts getting all these weird powers that he doesn't know how to manage. That's what also happens to BYTE as a result of interacting with alien technology that doesn't affect any of the humans because it's all electronics and stuff. But to him... it starts sparking off all sorts of random things and stuff he doesn't quite understand. It's also an analog for puberty as well.
Oh, right, okay.
Traditionally,
sure.
Actually, you know what? We turn this into more of a comedy. We turn this more into a slacker comedy where BYTE, for the first time, is able to experience robotic puberty that all of his friends are going through, but he cannot because he is a robot until he interfaces with that alien technology, which suddenly makes him do weird things.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. I like it.
And then we can have really fun conversations where, you know how kids... I mean, I don't know what your experience was like growing up, but you generally, when you're at that age, you kind of have tentative discussions with your friends about certain things.
So what stage of puberty are you up to? I'm on level 2. I haven't upgraded to level 3 yet.
Exactly.
But, I like it. It actually turned a little bit from... I was thinking Chronicle was a bit where they find a meteor and develop superpowers. It's turned less away from that and more to Encino Man, which is Pauly Shore and Sean Austin dig up a caveman, and they've got to like sort of deal with this caveman as it bumbles through their high school lives.
Man, what is Pauly Shore doing these days? I feel like we need to cast him. We cast him as one of the dads or something.
Yeah, maybe as like the weird teacher at school or something like that.
Yeah, that's it. The weird teacher. That's it. He's perfect for the weird teacher.
And Sean Austin can definitely play like the school principal, like the uptight, play by the rules school principal.
Yep, absolutely. So, okay, this is great. Then we also need, you know what we also need? We need like an older kid who acts as like the one that they all look up to because they're just way too cool for the juniors. They're sort of like, they're maybe like 18 years old already, and they already are starting to learn to drive, or they have a car license.
Yeah, in I think that's John Cusack in Stand By Me, right? Plays Will Wheaton's older brother.
Yeah, I want to go female though this time.
Okay,
it's a bit
sure.
It's always the same, where it's always like some older dude, and I think
so if it was 10 years ago, we'd play Anna Kendrick is that role, right? Where she's the older, wiser sister.
Yeah.
Who is it nowadays? Who's on the cusp there? I don't watch enough films anymore to tell you who it is.
Whoever's on Home and Away at the moment, or Neighbours.
All right, so we're doing an Australian setting?
We don't have to. Like, you know, all those people. You know, I mean, look at, what's his name? Thor, Chris Hemsworth. He was in an Australian soap, and look what he's gone on to attempt to do an accent in. I'm sure
Margot Robbie was in Neighbours, in the Australian soap opera Neighbours.
You mentioned a film that you watched, also directed by McGee, called The Babysitter.
Babysitter with Samara Weaving, Hugo Weaving's
I was just going to say, Samara Weaving.
There you go. Okay, sure.
She can be the cool, like, aloof, teenager who maybe at like 16 or 17 years old already has her driver's license, is a bit of a like too cool for school kind of character, and all the kids kind of look up to her as like someone who's just like, oh, what an ideal to match. And then I think that whatever adventures they get up to, they all need to come together at some point for some reason and have one last adventure or one last scheme together.
So I think there still has to be a...
We do need to have like a
sort of a one ring sort of thing, like an impetus to go on a journey.
Yep.
And I don't know what that is.
Maybe it just needs to be a classic road trip. You know what?
I think it definitely has to be. So it's sparked by the robot getting robot puberty.
Yep.
And maybe there is like, so they come across like a crashed spaceship and something happens.
Yep.
And they know that there's one like Independence Day style downed mothership, like just like off the coast of wherever it is. You know how you see at the end of every Independence Day film, there's like the jutting, like, and they're like, we need to go there. We need to get into that place because that's the last remaining alien tech.
Yep.
And that'll give us the answers that we need.
Okay.
And so it's their journey from high school to crashed mothership.
Perfect. I think one of the new abilities that BYTE, our robot, gains is the ability to turn into a car. So it kind of just morphs into a car. But I like the idea that like, because it's happening to this robot so suddenly, it doesn't know how to drive. So we can still have the whole like kids get into a car and not know how to drive, but the car drives itself because the robot's doing it, but it doesn't know how to control itself. Maybe
not so much a car as like a quad bike or tri-bike sort of thing. Enough to carry the three other kids.
Some kind of lofty 2024 idea of what a transportation vehicle looks like.
Do you reckon Elon Musk will guest star in this film for us?
For sure.
In
the same way that he had an obnoxious cameo in Iron Man 2, we'll put him into our film as well. How would it be too much to say that like maybe Tesla's gone out of business at that point?
I think if we're going to get him, like Tesla is now like running space stations and stuff like that.
And I think Tesla actually made BYTE.
No, I think BYTE comes from alien tech. Maybe Tesla has, as we find out, Tesla has salvaged the alien tech and is releasing technology based on that.
I think that like Tesla developed the weapons that ultimately defeated the aliens.
Yes, but it's also
based on alien tech because they've spent so much time.
Maybe we like Independence Day and Star Trek. We get Brett Spiner in there to be the scientist who's coming up with all this tech. So
what we'll say in the background as kind of like the backstory for it. You know that car that Tesla launched into space about a year ago or so?
Yep.
It was Elon Musk's personal Tesla Roadster. I think that what we'll say is that 2 years prior to the events of the film, that car actually comes back to Earth loaded with alien technology.
There's a moment in Star Trek First Contact where the Vulcans are flying by, and the only reason they stop off at Earth is because one guy happens to launch the first warp drive, and humans have finally got the capacity to for warp technology. We'll come and introduce ourselves and initiate first contact with an alien race.
Yep.
Maybe that's why aliens invaded Earth.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
because they're like, they've got the ability to launch road vehicles into space. We'll come and invade them before they get too powerful.
Yeah, great.
So Elon Musk is actually the impetus for the alien invasion as well.
Yeah, okay, great. But this is all backstory.
All
right?
backstory.
This
doesn't
is all
affect
just,
the plot.
Hinted at in just
if you zoom in on one of the newspapers, it may say the news reports that are going off in the background.
Yeah.
But this is just all fan fiction.
So we'll just say that the kids want to travel to where this crash ship is. Because I think they need to be excited for it. They need to have a good, how kids want to go to Florida for spring break or whatever.
It's definitely we can't tell our parents we're going on this road trip.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's the reason why they want to go to this crash ship?
I think it is just to get to the bottom, so the BYTE can alien interface.
You know what it is. The kids are being bullied, and the kids also know that there's some nice juicy alien weapons on that ship.
Right, okay.
So they're just
I also think it's kind of like these films are all about your American Pie. It's getting to second base.
Yep.
What's the only other alien tech that BYTE can interface with? It's the crashed mothership. It's the equivalent of...
so it's also BYTE's getting laid, basically.
Yes, a little bit. Again, it's all allegorical in a certain way, but that's pretty much how we frame it.
This is great. And then as a result, we get... what's her name? Weaving's character also goes along with them just through circumstance, right?
Yeah.
It's not...
Maybe she meets up with him part of the way through. I don't think she's part of the core crew.
I think she should be. I think it's just by circumstance that she gets lumped in with these kids. Maybe she's running away from... maybe she's done some sort of minor crime, some kind of petty crime. She's running away from doing that crime, or she's just run away from the scene of the crime, jumps into BYTE the car, BYTE the personal vehicle, and she's just go, 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 go. And then just as a result, they're now together because
So who are the kids then? We've got 3 kid slots to fill.
Considering that that It Chapter 1 utilised one of the actors, one of the kids from Stranger Things, I say we just pick another actor from Stranger Things.
Sure.
Take them. What's the Gaben Matara?
I was going to go with Millie Bobby Brown. She can be.
We've had her in a fair few. So we'll bring both of them in. We'll bring Gaten is the kid with the curly hair and the hat, and Millie Bobby Brown, obviously. I
also think maybe Ellie Fanning could be Samara Weaving's little sister.
Oh yeah. Okay. So that's the connection. So she's old. She's getting old now.
That's true.
She might be older than Weaving actually.
I don't think so. I think Samara Weaving's probably 30 playing 18 and Ellie Fanning's 22 playing 14.
Yeah.
So.
All right, that works. And then we're kind of also bringing in the cast of what was that really terrible the Abrams
Super
one?
8.
Super 8, yeah. Which, aside from the casting, which was great, the film itself was not.
Exactly. This is where we draw.
This is where we're doing better. Yeah.
What was the good thing about Super 8?
Casting. Yeah.
Let's cast the people from Super 8.
What's happened to the main boy from that film? No idea. Granted, he's probably way too old to be in our film now, but we could even bring him back as one of a cool teenager that smokes or something or whatever. So yeah, that's the journey, and because the Ellie Fanning, it's not. Definitely not going to be the right age, but because she's friends with the other people, that's how the older sister gets involved, and that's how they all go off together.
This is what I don't like about Disney's re-aging Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
There was a time when we just pretended.
That's right, yeah.
We were watching 90210.
Yeah.
We knew that these 30-year-old people weren't old enough for high school, but we pretended.
Do you remember when they just got completely different actors to play younger versions of characters? Remember when, look at Star Wars. They didn't de-age Alec Guinness to play Obi-Wan Kenobi in the prequels. They cast a brand new actor.
Didn't get James L. Jones as little Anakin Skywalker. Look, I think people have the ability to suspend their disbelief.
Yeah.
They don't need Will Smith to be a teenage Will Smith. They don't need Samuel L. Jackson to have digital makeup.
Yeah. Look at the cast of the Goonies, right? You just can't tell what age.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to get Martha Plimpton into this one as well.
Yeah, exactly.
She can play Kathy Bates diner restaurant lady, where it's just
right, let's just get in. What we should do. This will be like a who's who.
Because Sean Austin's one as well. We've already got him in this film. We pulled him out. Are you talking
about Sam? Not that's Sean Astin. Yes, you're right. No, I confused it with his character.
Because we stole him from Encino Man, but we're also simultaneously stealing him from the Goonies.
I think this should be a who's who of kids actors,
kid adventure actors.
So we'll get in the kids from Stand By Me. Well,
so Will Wheaton,
most of them anyway.
Corey Feldman, not Joaquin Phoenix,
not River Phoenix.
Jerry O'Connell.
Oh man, he's all right.
We'll get in Sean Astin, Short Round, Martha Plimpton.
Yep. What's his name?
Josh
Brolin. Yeah. Yep, that will come in. What else?
I think these are all we had our own. One of the very first films we ever made was a film called Adventure Kids.
We did, yeah. This is almost Adventure Kids 2.
So we'll bring in some of whoever we cast in Adventure Kids.
Is this Adventure Kids 2?
I don't think so. Adventure Kids was very weird, where we were doing time travel casting and Nazi U-boats. So.
This isn't weird.
No, it's a separate film. I think spiritually, it has a spiritual
successor,
but it's its own thing.
In the same way that Stranger Things is a spiritual successor to the Goonies, whatever this film is called is a spiritual successor to Adventure Kids, which is also a rip-off of end of whatever that film was that we just watched today. What was it called? Rim of the World, which in itself was a rip-off of Gone in 2060 Seconds. It's a turducken of films.
Yeah, there's as I think. Carl Jung said there's only really 6 true stories.
That's right, and we're doing all of them.
This is episode 73. So,
all right. I think I like all of this. I like what we're doing here. I think crowds are going to flock to it because they want to see all their old favorite childhood actors coming back and looking way older than they remember. Do we also
bring in old childhood robots?
Oh man! No, you say like the age?
The Short Circuit is Short Circuit a robot?
Oh, you actually want to take the robots in?
Yeah,
okay.
so we bring the robots from those 80s. Like if we're bringing the kids back from the 80s films to play roles, why not bring in the robots? Bring in Short Circuit and
I don't know any others. Gizmo? No, that's a toy.
Yeah, who knows?
It's a real
maybe R2D2 sitting there in the background. Who knows? Little cameos from robots because that's what they don't really do. So
that's right. Yeah, and I mean, like unlike actors that disappoint you because they've aged so much since you last saw them, robots don't age. You can bring them straight back.
Have you seen the Short Circuit robot recently? He's really let himself go.
He's had a bit of work as well.
Yeah, they tried to buff the rust lines around from his eyes, and they just botched it up, and now it looks all weird.
So we better give him an opportunity then to reprise his role as Short Circuit. I think that's what we do. And then we can do a sequel where it's 27 years later and all the kids are adults.
It's true. We do tend to plan out our sequels a little bit early on. Maybe we'll just see what the success
see
is.
the box office returns on this one, and then we decide whether or not to do a sequel, which, that's a thing. We can then retroactively apply things. All right. I think the last thing that we need for this film is the name.
Yes.
Do we just call it BYTE?
Yeah, BYTE could work. I think it really opens up the door for sequels, though, right? Because if the first one's called BYTE, then the second one's obviously called Kilobyte and Megabyte and Terabyte and
that
Giga Tetra. What comes after terabyte? Gigaflop?
Zettabyte?
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go.
Petabyte?
I said we're not going to plan too far ahead, and already I'm thinking of what the fifth film of the sequence can call.
You know what we can do for the trailer? If people are confused as to why this film's called BYTE, the trailer needs to be one of those classic style trailers where movie film voice guy goes, "Meet BYTE."
Have you seen, again, for audience members out there, it's worth going and watching a trailer for a film called Mac and Me, which was a McDonald's sponsored rip-off of E.T.
E.T., yeah.
If you want to get a sense of what the movie film voice is telling you, just spelling it all out, then go watch that.
There's a great scene in that film that Conan O'Brien used for years and years when Paul Rudd came on the show. Paul Rudd would come on the show and he'd be talking about his latest film, and every time he said, "Here's a clip from the film," it'd be this clip of from Mac and Me of a kid in a wheelchair zooming down a hill and then tumbling off a cliff into water. And it's just presented without context whatsoever, and then Paul Rudd would just sort of nod serenely afterwards, and that'd be it. But yeah, what were we talking about?
The tone for the movie voice is
definitely that.
Lifted exactly from
It's
Mac
definitely
and Me.
that. It's "Meet BYTE. He's not your ordinary kid." and then just like cut to like all these manic things. Anyway, that's the kind of flavor we're going for here. You know exactly what it is. No one is going to go to this film and be confused as to what BYTE is about. I think that's it.
I think
I think that's a wrap on BYTE. Housekeeping. As per usual, we are online at moviefilmstudios.net, where you can find all of our episodes, our bios, and Mufuzawudada, which is the database of films that we've made on this very podcast. Search your favorite social media platforms for Movie Film Studios, as we're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, where we post various things on each of those platforms that definitely take advantage of those platform strengths, because we are very, very social media savvy. If you have a gang of kids who need to be quieted down every afternoon because they're off a sugar high, then how about you expose them to our podcast? You can find us on Podbean, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, our website, of course, and pretty much any other place that you get podcasts from. If we're not on your favorite platform of choice, question why that is.
The other thing that might be worth doing is, if you're following Movie Film Studios on Facebook, give AJ and Isaac, which is our other page, a like. You'll be able to follow us. We've got a couple of live shows coming up later in the year, which we'll fill in the details there, but the best way of checking out when and where we're performing around Sydney is by following that page as well. If you like the podcast, definitely come along to one of our live shows, and if you don't like the podcast, come along to one of our live shows, because it's very different. And I think that's it. All that remains this week is to thank you once again for listening. I've been Isaac. And I've been AJ. Roll credits.